Well, welcome back. This is Cody again, and welcome to the next episode of The Awakened Stranger. And today we're talking with Kelly. And Kelly, I'm going to give you a minute here in just a second to introduce yourself and kind of share your story. And this has been just a fun journey so far. We're about 15, 16 episodes in and loving the ability to just communicate and talk to people. And my idea was strangers meeting strangers and getting to know each other. So, Kelly, if you would, share us some information about you, kind of your life story, maybe some experiences that got you to this point, and maybe what brought you to the point of reaching out and communicating with us and sharing your story on this podcast.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Cody. Well, my name is Kelly. I'm turning 40 in a couple weeks, so I'm kind of going through that age transition right now. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, and yeah, they're pretty much my reason to keep going in life. So that's, pretty much my most amazing accomplishment in life right now. I'm about, 6-7 years into this whole spiritual awakening thing. I guess, when I was a kid, I guess looking back, I never really knew peace in my life, I guess. And sorry, I'm a crier. My parents were addicts. And so it was just chaos from the time that we were young, I guess. And, looking back, I never knew that. And now I think I'm seeking that more than ever. And I think I'm finally finally finding it. So my parents, again, they were addicts. My dad, mostly alcohol when we were younger. And then my parents got divorced when I was in 3rd grade. So I guess I didn't realize the effect that had on me because I was pretty young. But my mom, I guess, took it pretty hard, and that's really when she kind of fell off and was a meth addict for all of our childhood until we were adults, which, we've kind of mended that relationship a little now, but that was, looking back, definitely caused some issues of self-worth and things like that. So, those were things that I had to work through in this whole journey. And so then when we were in high school, my dad started selling meth, and that was obviously more chaos. And we liked to party. I was kind of a full-fledged alcoholic by the time I was 14. So he didn't like us throwing parties at his house because he thought, that he might get caught doing what he was doing. So he kicked us out, and we had to move in with my mom. And that's when I started doing meth with my mom at about 15, I think. And that lasted into my 20s. And then I met my husband, and we got married, but, we were both alcoholics and drink a lot. So by that time I was really angry at the world, at myself, at a lot of things. So our marriage was pretty tumultuous, I would say. So we were married for 12 years, and he built wind turbines, and we had some fun together. We traveled and lived in different places around the U.S. While he worked there. So we had some experiences that were fun and joyful, but mostly alcohol and things like that. So when we had kids, I wanted to change more, I think. So that caused some problems in our relationship. We moved back to Colorado near my family, and that was a little more stable. But we separated, and I started drinking a lot more around that time. So not good for my kids. I remember my daughter begging me not to drink, and I still would. And it was just bad. So, and then about 7 years ago, I had a stroke driving down I-76. And I mean, thank God my dad was with us, or me and my son would probably not be here. But I remember just all of, driving past that point still, to this day, just thinking, if things would have happened 5 seconds earlier, we would all be dead. And just knowing that God was there. And I think that's really when my my spiritual awakening started, because I knew that God had a plan. So I really started diving into those things. I still drank pretty heavily for a year after I had the stroke, which was horrible. But I met my best friend, and she introduced me to the movie The Secret. And it was really about the power of your mind and how you create your reality. And that was the starting point. I knew that I was more powerful than I had ever given myself credit for. And something in me just clicked. I realized that I had the power, and I quit drinking. It wasn't hard for me to quit drinking, and I've never, ever since the day I stopped drinking, I've never had the urge to go back, really. And ever since I quit drinking, things have just always gotten better in my life. My relationship with my kids, my relationship with my mom, my family. So I started maybe becoming slightly obsessed with the spiritual awakening thing at that point, and the power of your mind. And so I've read, I don't know, hundreds probably of books, and just really dove into, how we're the creators of our reality. And I think it's still a struggle every day to remember that we're powerful, or that I'm powerful. But yeah, I think that it's just been a great journey, and I think it's never ending. So I'm still learning.
Well, I first of all, congratulations. I know that's a weird thing to say, but you've come through hell to get here. And I've shared a lot of my personal life with people on these calls, and there's a lot of people that have probably heard most of the story. But every time I have a phone call with you and sharing this time, there's more parts of me that I want to share. So if you're okay, I want to give you a little rundown of more of me.
Yes.
I believe for a long time I lived in such chaos that I didn't understand what peace felt like. And I would purposely create chaos in my life because it was comfortable. That was my comfort zone. Growing up and coming through my teenage years, I to this point, I don't have a relationship with my father, and I do that on purpose. I don't think he's the type of person I would like in my life, and I don't want him to know my daughters. There's a lot of reasons, but in my high school years, my dad was selling drugs, and he asked me to deliver some product to a person. I didn't know what I had with me. I later learned that crack, something of that matter, and I was just asked to go drop some little package off to somebody. I'm 15, 16 years old, and I was driving, so I was probably 16.
Wow.
And pull up to this house. They lead me behind the home into a little trailer, like a RV, little trailer, little small bumper pole camper. And I didn't know what I was doing, right? They asked me to go inside. They needed to sample the product. And essentially I watched two guys smoke everything that I had given them, and then asked me for more. And I said, yeah, sure, I could just go get it. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I left, went back to my dad, said, these guys want more. Do you have more? I don't know what I'm giving them, and I don't know what I'm supposed to collect or how much. And so he gave me more. I went back to that house, and I returned there about an hour later, and there was now 4 guys there, and they jumped me. I got knocked out. I woke up to a gun pointed to my head. And
oh my gosh!
Told me that I needed to leave. I was going to leave the drugs with them, and they were either going to kill me or I was going to leave. And I remember that was before cell phones were a big thing, and I had a pager, right? And I remember realizing that after I had gotten punched in the side of the head and I had fallen, that my hands came out of my pocket. I lost my pager. I'm looking for that on the ground as I'm trying to realize, like, I might be dying here in a minute. And
oh my gosh.
I picked that up off the ground. I started walking away, and I got, 10, 15 feet away, and I hear them say, go take his money, go get his wallet. And I just kept walking. I said, I'm either going to get shot in the back of the head or the back, or I'm eventually going to turn the corner. And they didn't follow me. I walked around the house and I took off running. I ran about 2 blocks, ended up getting to a KFC and called my little brother and asked him to come pick me up. And that was the day that I chose to leave my house. I'd never wanted to be around my dad again. And I moved out at 16 years old and left.
Wow.
And I a lot of weird experiences, but the more I talk to people, they're like, man, you're like an onion. You just keep unfolding layers and layers. And it's true. I think we've all gone through experiences that have led us to who we are today. It's given us things to either learn from or to avoid. One of my most favorite sayings in the world is, you're either an example or a warning, and choose to be the example. And I learned that very quickly, that there's certain people in your life that are here for a reason, and there's certain people that are here to guide you and help you, and there's other people to learn from. And I learned in that moment that my dad was not the person that I wanted in my life, and it's been very peaceful without him. But as you've come through those things and you've gone through this, and you said, 7 years being spiritually awake, I'm about 2.5 years since I've had my awakening, and mine came from a mushroom dose, right? So here I am doing, I don't want to use the wrong words, but right, I had my own experience with things that are not considered legal in Utah.
Right. Yes.
And I believe that there's reasons that certain medicines, I call it medicines because plant medicine, I believe, is here for a reason. Whether it's
I agree.
THC, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's ayahuasca, they're here for a reason to help us raise our frequency, raise our consciousness, and used correctly, I do believe that there's benefits to them, and especially the healing side of it. So as you've kind of come through that and realized some of the stuff that was no longer good in your life and moving forward, do you think there was more to your awakening that kind of brought that on for you? Or
I don't know. I think I've always kind of had at least a good head on my shoulder, even when I was doing drugs and drinking. It was like I knew that my kids always needed a house and we always needed food and things like that. So I think and I had like my grandma in my life who was just the best lady ever. And so I had a good moral compass where at least I kind of knew I was doing something wrong and that I needed to fix that, but I definitely think becoming aware of the fact that, oh my gosh, we have the power to change anything in our life has made me realize that. I think my mom, I realize now, going deeper and deeper into these things, because I think it's never ending. You're always going to learn things about yourself that you didn't really remember or know for sure. But I look back and I think, like, I had a really bad problem with men as well. Definitely choosing wrong ones, thinking that I definitely thought that sex was love and that's what I had to do to earn love and things like that. And I had a relationship. I was in a relationship with a drug addict, and I was clean and sober by this point. And I met him and then found out he was addicted to meth, but I loved him by that point. And we just had such a spiritual connection. And again, I think that God puts things in our lives, like you said, absolutely for a reason. And I was kind of on the path of, I'm not taking medications and things like that anymore, like just cleaning my body out. So he came into my life at exactly the right time. And us ending that relationship just devastated me to a point where it was definitely a dark night of the soul. So I kind of started my awakening, but that just, shoved me into it violently to where I had no choice but to, like, be at my lowest. And I remember the only thing that I could do, because I cried all day, every day, probably for 6 months. And I think it was just all of the emotions from my past coming out and things like that. But all I could do to save myself was walk every morning and watch the sunrise. And it was, and I still do that to this day. Like, me and my dog, we take our walk in the morning, we watch the sunrise, and that's really my alone time with the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And I make a rule that I can only be thankful for things while I'm on this 30-minute walk or whatever, like only think of things that I'm thankful for, not things that I'm stressed about. And so I was celibate for a couple years, which really helped me know myself, because I wasn't distracted by people, and I only had myself and my kids, of course, which, that's like the best comfort in the world. But I had to get to know myself, and I'd been running from myself since I was 14 when I first started drinking. And like you said, just created chaos in my life because that's all I knew. And now it's like, I love just sitting in my backyard with my plants, and it's probably the closest thing to real peace that I have. So I don't know. I think that if we pay attention to the things that God puts in our lives, we'll see that it's really always working out for our best interest. But a lot of people choose the other way,
Mm-hmm. Well, like they say, right? Hindsight is always 20/20. We always see perfectly
Yes.
when you look backwards. And I love the fact that you spend your morning on purpose to meditate, to ground, to take your walk. I recently, right, I quit my job at the end of April, and I'm
so proud of you.
It was the scariest thing I ever did. I spent such a long time building up a career and building a reputation, who I was, and wanting to be, the best that I could be at my job, and to just walk away from that was scary. But then literally 4 weeks later, not even that yet, we're 3 weeks from the time I left, my entire life has changed. I used to sleep until the last minute before I knew I could get myself dressed, ready, and drive to work. And I'm now waking up literally at 5:55. I see it almost every morning. I wake up at almost 6 a.m. without an alarm clock, wide awake, like I've rested for days. I'm sleeping a little bit less than normal, but I wake up completely awake. I get stuff done in the house. I spend 15, 20 minutes outside. We've got a little back patio that I've got some backyard furniture on, but I've got one of those little plastic cheap Aaron Dock chairs that you can get from Walmart. And I move that over to the grass, and I sit there as the sun comes up over the mountain. I'm sitting there facing east, watching the sunrise come up over the mountain, and have just frequency music in my ears, and just meditating, watching the sun barefoot with my feet on the grass. And that's my first 15 minutes. And then it's crazy. I've started scheduling my day in a way that I've never done, but I'm now accomplishing things way more and getting more stuff done in less time, and it feels good. Like, I'm slowly just eliminating the chaos. But I think what's happened for me, at least, is I've learned how to be okay with peace, and I've learned how to be okay that that life doesn't have to be chaos. And it's a very different feeling for me lately, and I'm slowly learning how to adjust to it. But I believe that that's what's coming, so that we're understanding that there's a bigger purpose. There's people realizing that there's a greater purpose that we're here for. And I've always said, I came out of the car industry, and some of the best salesmen, the best people, always had a past. And I think that's very true here, that some of the greatest souls and the people on this planet that are here to change the world, that are here to add something to the benefit humanity, have a past. And we've gone through stuff that have taught us things to be able to deal with and communicate and connect with people on all levels. And I believe it was a purpose. We did this on purpose. We chose this lifetime. And so I know you've been through struggles, and as a lot of people have, and a lot of us that are just dealing with life. And so it's amazing to see what you've gone through and how strong you are to know that we've probably got even a bigger mission coming. And so...
Oh, yeah. I think it's so cool. And I just had a reflexology session with a girl that I've known her forever, and we were both addicts. I knew her through addiction and things like this, but now she's, married, and it was so cool to see her. She told me, I'm finally where I'm meant to be, and it feels so good. And she's kind of this hippie girl, kind of like me, and she's such a good soul. And so she went through this reflexology class and now does that to help people. And so we were talking about it, and I've wanted to do the class for like 3 years, but I'm really bad about coming up with ideas, and then I let fear or whatever, I come up with excuses. Well, I can't take the time off of work, or I can't do this, or I can't, whatever it is. And so me and her were talking about this. I told her my idea is to get this energy healing certification and then do this stuff in addiction rehab centers, because addiction has always been a very close thing to me. My whole family, my sister is an addict, my brother is an addict, my mom, my dad, it was just, we were full of addicts. So it's always been kind of near and dear to my heart. And especially when I got clean and sober, it was like, I have to help people see that there's something else out there. So I was telling her about that, and just to go along with what you said, we were talking about how it seems like addicts are, for lack of a better word, which I don't know if I agree with this word, but like the star seeds, the people who came here to help people and change people. But it's like we all felt too much that you had to drown that out, it was something. So she was like, absolutely, once you get this certification, I'm on board, we're doing this. So it was just, that was kind of divine intervention, because I was going to cancel my appointment that day even. And I was like, something told me, no, go see Mariah, go do this. And so now she said, well, I'll give you a free reflexology session once you complete the class. And so I said, okay, I'll go back to work and I'll look at, when they have the next one or whatever. It just so happens to be this weekend, which again, I tried to talk myself out of it. Like, I have a 4-day weekend. I could spend it with the kids. I could be doing things at my house. And should I spend the money doing it? All of these things. But I'm really seeing that God put that whole session into my life for a reason. So I'm moving forward with it. And I think it's kind of a true statement that addicts, because some addicts that I've met probably aren't the best people, but a lot of them have been people who truly do have good souls, but there's something masking that,
Yeah. Well, and I'm a fan of just using quotes and using things in analogies type wording, because I believe it applies to people at different levels wherever they're at. But, it's... God, I'm trying to make it link together, because it's like on one side it's an idea that comes from a completely different topic from what we were just talking about. But no, I guess when I read back or kind of circle back to what you're saying, like we definitely were here for a purpose, right? We're here because there's a greater good, and I don't know, there's a reason that we've gone through things to learn the lessons, to kind of have the understanding of what the next generation of souls being awakened is coming, because I think that's where we're at. We've got the need for help, and you mentioned the word starseed, and I kind of want to go down that path for a minute, because that starseed, light worker, grid worker, those are words that have kind of come to my awareness that for a long time I didn't understand what that meant. And my awakening kind of started 2.5 years ago from a big mushroom dose. And
yes,
there was a moment that when it all really happened, and I, on purpose, I took a large enough dose to have the experience, and I left my body. I was aware that my consciousness was separate from my body. Well, I guess I wasn't aware that I was separate. I knew that nothing existed other than my awareness.
Yes.
And I remember as I was kind of coming back to physical reality and kind of re-entering my body, if you will, that I stated out loud that night, I said, "Oh, you've been out there for a long time." And that was the comment that I made to myself. And it's slowly coming back to making sense, right? That our souls have existed forever, and that we have probably lived lifetimes in different universes, different galaxies, different planets, that there's been lifetimes that our soul has had. And I'm under the understanding, and I fully believe that that we're in the moment right now of this great awakening of humanity, because our planet had put out a signal, had put out a call. Our planet has its own consciousness, and that our planet had put out a signal asking for help. That there's been so much negativity in this world and so much toxicity that it asked for help. And those star seeds are souls that have experienced life so many times over and over and had such a great understanding of what we're doing, that we heard that call through the universe, and we chose to embody a physical vessel. We chose to have a body. We chose to come on this planet for this reason, that we're now in a space in our galaxy, right? We're running through the photon belt right now, and there's a lot of radiation through the universe that is affecting our planet. And that, tied with the solar flares and the sun's activity, is bringing awareness to our consciousness. And these souls, these star seeds that are a higher source, a higher soul that has chose to be here to help this earth rise and to help heal humanity. And I do believe that we're here for that purpose. And a lot of people are waking up to that mission. We chose to be here. So
isn't it exciting?
It's unreal to know, 2 years ago, I had this thought that I'm like, that's cool, but when's it going to happen? And I'm like, no, it's happening right now. We're living in it right now. We are awake and aware that we are actually making a change in the world, not just the world as far as where people live, but we're changing the frequency of this planet. And it's amazing. So, thank you for being here with me.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how you don't really have to reach out and change the whole world. If you change yourself, the whole world changes for you. And it really is true. And I know that when people are in despair and they're, the horrible emotions and fear and things like that, it's almost impossible to see. But it is so true that once you change yourself, your whole world around you, and then opportunities come up. I mean, look at you, when you took that leap of faith, look at the opportunity that was put in front of you to change humanity for the better. And thank God you took it.
Yeah. That's the crazy thing, is I've spent my whole life, and maybe I would say my whole life, right? I would only make decisions, especially through my professional career, that I only decide on things when I already knew the outcome. It was like I knew the safe bet. And, I'm one that I'll buy a lottery ticket once in a while because it's fun to dream, but I know that spending $20 on a Powerball ticket is never going to make me a millionaire, right? It's because it just doesn't work. But I already know the outcome of that decision, and I lived my whole life only deciding on things to do when I already knew what the outcome was going to be. And something switched in me a couple weeks ago, and I realized that I don't need to have the outcome already planned out. I just had to trust that if I was moving in the right direction and paying attention to my intuition and feeling those gut feelings, that I was going to be directed in the path that needed to be taken. And I finally let go.
And it's crazy to me that society has been definitely purposely made to think this way, but we're so busy that nobody really slows down to listen to their intuition at all. We go to work and we have to make money and we have to do these things, and you always have to do things. Well, like you, I mean, look at slowing down in the morning, grounding. I mean, how amazing do you feel every single day now?
Oh, yeah, my entire body has changed. It's crazy to say it, but like my eating habits are different. I was always a very picky eater. Ketchup and cheese only, right? Nothing, no condiments, no green things.
Wow.
I was the most basic. I could eat the same meal for 2 years in a row and not get bored about it, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm eating different foods. I'm finding that the stuff that was in our house and our cupboards was processed fake foods and packaged.
Yes.
And I'm like, I open it up. I'm like, there's no food in this house. I'm like, I am on food. I want something that's been grown by the sun. And that was the weirdest thing for me to say, because I didn't want natural stuff. I wanted the fast things I could throw in the microwave and eat in 10 minutes. And now I'm wanting things that are grown by the earth with the sun, realizing that alone is a frequency that my body is asking for. And it is amazing. So
I love that. Yeah. And if we can, I firmly believe that, you can only lead by example. You can't force anybody to awaken. And that's, I think, was the hardest thing for me, at first, because I wanted to tell everyone what I knew. And, we have the power. Your mind is so powerful. Like, come on, read this book. Let's learn these things. And that was really hard for me in the beginning. But now the more I sit back and kind of just observe, I see that just my presence and the changes in my life create change in everybody else's life. I mean, once I started eating, me and my kids, we eat all organic now, because your body does start to crave that. And now if I eat fast food, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? That was so gross. I haven't drank a soda in years. But once I did that, then my dad he was extremely overweight, obese, and he started deciding to lose weight and eat healthier. And, my mom, she decided to stop drinking soda so much, and things like that. So it wasn't even just that I was telling them, you shouldn't do this. It was just by me changing and them seeing the outcome of that, that they decided, oh, maybe it's not that hard, or things like that. And it's really crazy to me seeing now that I remember when I was an alcoholic, just thinking, why is it so hard to quit drinking? How come I can't quit drinking? Things like that. And now anything that I've wanted to give up, all I have to do is make that choice, and I don't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. It's the easiest thing. It's
again, another saying, I'm full of just other people's quotes. That's really what I think I'm good at, but easy to do, easy not to do. And
yes.
That's what it is. Every choice that we have it's really easy to make the choice to, decide to stop a behavior that you no longer feel good with. And that's what I've learned is, right, you can lie to anybody, and a lot of people are very good at making other people believe whatever they want to say, but you'll never be able to lie to yourself. You'll always know the truth. And I've sat with that for a long time, realizing that even just the dumb little things are making a comment of like, no, that sounded good. People believe me, but I wasn't truthful to myself. And that's been a big shift for me, is just being okay to be okay. And I'm not perfect, and I'm not I've had a past. We've all gone through stuff in life, and to be able to just sit down and say, this is me, this is who I am, and I may not be right and perfect today, but I know I want to be better tomorrow. And
yes.
It's pretty amazing. Yep. But it's like you said, nobody's ever going to be able to help you to change your thoughts or to do something different. The dumb saying, you can lead a horse to water, right? But that's it is. It's when somebody decides for themselves that they want to make a change, it becomes powerful.
Yes. And I don't know if you have looked at, what is it, like the scale of consciousness, but it only takes one person vibrating at, I think, what is it, a 600 or something is whatever, love. But it only takes one person, and you offset like 75,000 people in a negative frequency in the world.
Well, and I like to, in that exact same example, I think of a light bulb, right? You can have a pitch black light or room, and the tiniest light, even the smallest glow from your phone, illuminates the entire room. Right. You don't need to have a floodlight to light up a basement. You just need a tiny, tiny little light, and all of a sudden you can see in the darkness. And that's what it is. We're slowly lighting up everybody else's awareness, and they say it takes 1% of humanity to shift the entire frequency of this planet.
Yes.
And I think we're way past that now. It's just a matter of letting everybody kind of settle into this new frequency, because it is unreal how amazing it feels. So,
yeah, I think it's awesome. And I don't know what percentage, but I mean, just based off my TikTok algorithm, which who knows what that says, but, I know that there's just a ton of people out there who are just waking up to the fact that we are powerful as humanity. We are powerful, and it's been systematically taken from us for so many years. And I'm just so happy that, we're finally starting to get it back. I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, tell me, is there anything else that's kind of been more apparent in your life of some changes that you've gone through, or something that's kind of that you're working on right now for yourself?
Right now I think I'm kind of in the space maybe you were like a month ago. I really feel, every time I pull up to work, I think, what a schmuck I am. Why am I doing this? I want to, I think my downfall, I want to just sit at home and work on myself and do yoga and ground and talk to my plants all day long. When I have to go to work, it's like the most unbearable thing to me now. So I think that that's really hard, and I'm kind of trying to overcome that and maneuver how I'm going to get around that. And I think that these reflexology classes that I'm taking this weekend is definitely like a first step. Because like I said, I want to help addicts. That's really my calling. And I've known that for a couple of years now. So I just have to kind of find that, a way to get there. And like I said, I'm a single mom, so I really don't have a lot in savings. I don't, we kind of, and gosh, right now my daughter has a boyfriend. So, and he comes over and eats dinner at our house every night. So my grocery bill alone is like $1,000 a month. So I'm thinking, how do I get around this? So I think that's my biggest struggle right now. And definitely, overcoming fear, which I've had a really bad fear of driving ever since I had this stroke. So I haven't driven on the interstate. My poor dad, he's like my chauffeur. He drives me everywhere if I have to go out of town, and it's really stupid, and I feel like I need to just grow up and get over it. But I've tried a lot of different modalities. I've tried Psyche. I've tried I've tried microdosing mushrooms and tried going on trips and things like that to try to help that. But I just, for some reason, when I drive, I just start getting really bad anxiety attacks and thinking, especially when my kids are in the car. So that's been one thing that I've really been trying to overcome in my life is fear in general as well. Because with all the craziness that's going on in the world, I kind of get sucked back into that. I don't watch the news or anything like that, but once in a while my TikTok will throw in a political post or something like that, and it's like it sucks me right back into thinking, oh my gosh, the world is doomed. So I think it's definitely a test from the universe, God. I think it's all the same thing, but definitely to just show me, like, you have to stay grounded in your energy here and not get sucked into that fear, because that's exactly what the powers that be want. So
yeah, well, and I use the acronym for fear, right? False evidence appearing real.
Yes.
And that's so I recently came back from my solo trip to Maui and kind of more soul searching and figuring out who I was. And I wrote myself a note. I text myself a note, and that's how I keep track of my thoughts. If I don't have something to write with, I text myself. And one of the things I wrote is that, first of all, I was scared to do that alone, to be on a vacation by myself in a place that I call my happy spot, but that's been a place that only me and my wife have vacationed alone, or we would go every other year with the kids, and I was there alone. I'm like in my happy spot, but I'm also now no longer with anybody. And
right.
Scared to be, to just do it alone. And as I sat there by myself and kind of figured out what I wanted in life, I stopped thinking about what I wanted and I started realizing what I don't want. And I faced a lot of those fears and did things that scared the crap out of me. And I realized, and one thing I messaged myself was, do the scary things until they're no longer scary. And then find the next thing you're scared of and do that until it's no longer scary. Right. And so I would challenge you to maybe not go straight to the highway and drive, but maybe find a road that's a little bit faster speed than what you're comfortable with and just do it, right? Anxiety, from my understanding, is us thinking of things in the future that we can't control.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you're worried about something that you can't control, false evidence appearing real, and knowing that everything you've ever gone through in your life, you've already made it through. You've handled some very crazy situations and you're still here. So the likelihood of you getting through a highway drive is probably 100%. And so it's just you feeding into the same thing that we're talking about overcoming. So
yes, yep,
I would
absolutely.
say, try it. It might just change your life. Go drive again. So
Yeah.
it's crazy just how we put these limiting beliefs on ourselves, thinking that we can't do something or that it's going to be a certain outcome. And I think that's prevented a lot of us, myself included, from doing something that could be amazing because we were scared of
Yes.
the outcome. And
Yes. So, yep, I think that's my biggest lesson that, the universe is trying to show me now is fear, regardless of what it is. But, I really, and I was almost kind of fearful to do this call with you. And I scrolled past, I saved your post about it, and then scrolled past, and it was like the universe just again came to me and was like, get back to that post and you sign up for that call and you do it. So thank you for again, I really appreciate just all the effort that you're putting into this, and I think it's amazing for you. But yeah, so that was one thing that I was like, don't be afraid to do this. This is him saving humanity, and of course you want to be a part of that. So
well, and the crazy thing is, as it's been more common, right? We're almost a week into the first launch, the launch of the call. Let me get my brain straight. It's been a week, right, since I launched it on Friday, and I had never done this before. I didn't like to be seen. I didn't like the sound of my own voice when I heard it recorded. And so the first week I would do the recordings, I would launch it, publish the podcast, and not listen back because I didn't want to hear my own voice. Because I knew that if I listened to it back, I wouldn't post it because I would judge myself and I would pick apart everything that wasn't right. And even like today on just this call, I've had 2 different times that my thoughts just stopped coming to me and I stopped talking. Right. And who cares? We're all humans. We all do this. Right. This is normal. And I think that was more of it. I just wanted people to realize that everybody is exactly who they're supposed to be. And we've lived through our experiences to make us who we are today. And you mentioned, kind of helping with people overcoming addictions. You would never be able to connect with people on a level that would impact them in a way that will change them unless you had a personal experience.
Absolutely.
And I fully believe that every bit of your life up to this point was on purpose. And so
yep. I tell people all the time, I never thought that I would thank God that I had a stroke, but I am so thankful for that, because if that wouldn't have happened, I don't think I would have quit drinking and I probably would have died.
I call it the never again moment, right?
Yes.
You always have a never again. Never again will I allow this to happen.
Yeah. Exactly. And so me and my friend talk about that all the time. We have to be who, our pasts have to happen for us to be the people that we are today. And yeah, I'm so thankful for the person that I am today. And I'm really thankful for you that you stepped up for humanity. I think it's really awesome.
I think I was just dumb enough to try something different. So, I don't know. But I will ask you that I liked my final question. If from everything we've talked about, you sharing your story and the life you've gone through and kind of where you're going, is there any information that you would like to share with the listeners on somebody that might be in your same shoes? Like what would be good advice for them on kind of continuing and working through this?
Yeah, I really think that if you just stop enough to realize how powerful you are in your own life to make it whatever you want it to be, the universe will always support you in that, always, no matter what. So yeah, just sit with yourself, get to know yourself and clear your mind enough to just realize how powerful you are, and everything will work out.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up one more quote, and this is from Henry Ford, right? He said, whether you can or whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right.
You're right.
And it's the truth. It absolutely is. I can't thank you enough for the time that we've shared together, and I truly appreciate you feeling comfortable enough to open up and share with your experiences, because it's made you who you are, and it's definitely going to impact a lot of people. So I appreciate you so much, Kelly.
Well, I appreciate you too, Cody. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I kind of like to end these with just letting everybody else know, and the listeners, we've created a support group on Facebook. It's The Awakened Stranger. It is by kind of invite and acceptance only, so we're kind of keeping that as a very exclusive group. Everybody's welcome, but I don't want it to be kind of a spammed group. So we're making sure we've got moderators that are helping us keep the people that are invited into the group as the ones that really want to be there. So that's going to be a safe space for everybody to come and share their stories, ask questions, and to really learn from each other as we go through this, and a little bit more intimate than just a TikTok post. So that's there on Facebook, The Awakened Stranger. Obviously, we have the podcast here. And on all of my social media profiles, with Instagram is probably the space that's given me the newest ability to link everything. I got links to the Google Calendar. That gives you the ability to go and book your own time slot. It is my time zone. I'm Mountain Standard Time. So the calendar is going to be based on my time, and I've put little links in there to where you can kind of calculate your own time frame. So if it's 3 o'clock my time and your Central Time, it's going to be 4 o'clock your time. But yeah, click on the link, go to the calendar, sign up for a slot, create your story. I'd love being a part of it. And again, thank you so much for your time, and I'm so excited that we've had this opportunity as a group, as a collective, to continue to help humanity. So hope you have an amazing night, and I look forward to continuing our friendship.
Yep.